Saudi state television reporting this evening that journalist Jamal Khashoggi is dead. They say he died in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul and that his death was the result of a fight. Freelance journalist Dorian Jones joins me now live from Istanbul. Dorian, what's the latest?
Yeah, that's right. In a statement issued late night by Saudi officials have confirmed that Jamal Khashoggi was killed shortly after he entered the Istanbul consulate belonging to Saudi Arabia. They say his death was a result of a confrontation among people that were trying to detain him, and they say the journalist subsequently died in a chokehold. We also understand that two senior officials have been fired, including the deputy head of intelligence, Ahmed al-Aziri. Both officials have close links to the Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman. Also, 18 people in Saudi Arabia have been arrested in connection with the death of the Saudi journalist. And again, several of them are believed to be linked to the Crown Prince. Now, given the fact that it is considered the most powerful man in Saudi Arabia, and who Khashoggi was very critical of, was widely seen as being involved in some way. Any hope that he will be linked to these investigations seem unlikely, as he has been put in charge of Saudi Arabia's investigation into the Saudi journalist's death.
What about Khashoggi's body? Any word on what the Saudis have done with it?
Absolutely nothing about that. There's been very little details about this, and of course this is really a major point of concern for Khashoggi's family and his fiancée Hatice Cengiz, who was waiting outside the consulate when he visited that building and disappeared. I think that investigators here in Istanbul have long drawn the conclusion that his body was dismembered and disposed of, with suggestions of using chemicals, caustic soda, or disposed of around the city.
Okay, what's the reaction there in Istanbul, if there's any?
Well, this announcement came really very late at night. This is now the early hours of the morning, but we understand that Saudi King Salman spoke with the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan late this evening. No details of what was discussed, other than that both sides did agree to carry on investigating into the circumstances of this Saudi journalist's death. But other than that, no other statement. And in fact, the characteristics of this two-week investigation has been very little public statements. All the information has been coming from anonymous sources.
All right. Freelance journalist Dorian Jones from Istanbul, thank you very much. My next guest is David Chatterson. He was the Canadian ambassador to Saudi Arabia from 2009 to 2011. David joins me now live in Toronto. First of all, David, what do you make of the Saudis' explanation that it was the result of a fight in the consulate?
Well, I think that's laughable, quite honestly. The Saudis from the start have been denying the story. They have gathered their allies throughout the Gulf, Jordan, Egypt, criticizing the story, criticizing the Turkish authorities. And then when they really had no choice but to come to some admission, they are creating a story and a narrative to make it look less than what it was.
Yeah. I wonder how they will explain the fact that they rejected reports that Khashoggi was killed and dismembered inside the consulate for so long as baseless.
Well, I don't think the Saudis are very good at public relations. They haven't had a lot of experience in responding to press or criticism. They concoct a story, and they have means to disseminate that story and control any counter story in the kingdom.
Yeah. Let's go through some of what they've said so far, David. Saudi Arabia saying preliminary results of the investigation showed that he died, but the fallout, they were very quick to put that out as well on Saudi television. Saudi Arabia's Saud al-Qahtani sacked from his position as advisor to the royal court, and as well the deputy of intelligence also sacked from his position.
Well, I think this was really to be as expected as their final admission that he did die, which pretty much everyone knew. I mean, they're going to protect Mohammed bin Salman. There's no question. And it's just a question of how high they have to go up in the organization to make it somewhat credible to have a fall guy or fall guys for this.
Yeah, and they say that the investigation continues tonight with 18 Saudi nationals under arrest. That raises another question, doesn't it, about what that group of men was actually doing in Istanbul?
Yes, I mean, one thing I've never quite understood about this entire story is how the story came out. If the Saudis sent an assassination or murder squad to Istanbul to kill Khashoggi, then how did the story come out? Were they incredibly incompetent, or were the Saudis incredibly arrogant and wanting the story to come out? I don't know which it is. The latter concerns me far more than the former. Secondly, they sent a squad, as we understand, from Turkish authorities of 15 people, many of whom had links to the Saudi Interior Ministry or to the Saudi security forces. These are people that do this kind of work.
No. In your experience, from having been the ambassador to Saudi Arabia, I mean, is this the work of the king? Would the intelligence service have gone rogue? Or can we assume that MBS, as he's known, the Crown Prince, is so thin-skinned that he would send a hit squad to kill a dissident and a journalist?
Well, we saw his reaction when Minister Freeland tweeted some 2 months ago. It was an extraordinary overreaction. In my experience, it's entirely unthinkable that this could have occurred without his direct knowledge, if not his direct ordering of this activity. He's a micromanager. You're for him or you're against him. I cannot see this happening without his direct involvement.
Have you met him?
No, I met his father a few times.
Mm-hmm. All right. Representative of the U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham saying, to say that I am skeptical of the new Saudi narrative about Mr. Khashoggi is an understatement. What do you make of the American reaction from Lindsey Graham?
Well, I just don't think it's anyone is going to believe this. I think some may use it as a pretext to hope this story goes away, but it's just not plausible at all at any level. The Saudis do what President Trump's administration has done so well. They deny initially, they attack, they confuse, and they kick the ball down the field hoping that we get into a different news cycle. And they're able now to kick this ball down the field for a month, which I don't think that the journalistic world should allow.
Well, the Turkey hasn't allowed it, has it? They've kept this pretty much front of mind by releasing a photograph here, the rumor of a tape there, some more details here. So this has lived pretty much at the top of the headlines for quite some time due to the Turkish officials.
Yes, Turkey and Saudi Arabia are rivals for influence in the region. I mean, the Ottoman Empire was from Turkey, and they controlled the Arab world for a very long time. And that rivalry continues. I think they're also rivaling each other for favors or a favored relationship with the United States. So it's very much in Turkey's interest to keep this story going. I am certain they have a lot more information about this than they have released publicly to date.
What do you think Donald Trump's reaction should be, and what do you think it will be?
I have no idea what it will be. The man surprises me repeatedly. What it should be is censorship and some kinds of sanctions. I mean, journalism and a honest, open, objective media criticism is what certainly democracy needs, but it's what all rulers need. And in the absence of that, I think you get outcomes like we've just seen with Mohammed bin Salman.
All right. David Chatterson, former ambassador, Canada's ambassador to Saudi Arabia, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you, Carol.